Okay. Blood pressure. You're too young for this.
God, then if the nuns ever saw my handwriting today, they would just walk me out to detention. Walk me right out to detention.
Okay.
It does not look like the product of Catholic school education.
You're strict on that handwriting.
There's really only one item on this agenda.
Yeah, and the others are discussion.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. 'Cause I imagine there'll be plenty of Oh my God, your dad.
Yeah.
Sorry. I really am sorry.
Yeah. It looks better when I hook it up to two other monitors.
Sure.
I wouldn't. Because I would say she's the first vice president, but that has really.
But what if that's the case, what do you argue that?
She's the first president.
Yeah, she's the first vice president. Female, ever, not just black.
I just,
I don't know, let me that's my hero. But I still wouldn't switch the two other, not in this day and age. And I think that really, it's probably more palatable for a whole lot of other people.
I'm gonna see if I can get both.
Well, he said that there's a possibility that they can continue adding.
Because that's how we wanted to build it up.
Mm-hmm.
You can continue to add.
Yeah. So it's always an attraction. Yeah. You know who's really good? Helped me out a lot today. Steve Shields. I called him about it with the insurance shipping. You had so many great questions. Like, if it's a spill, how do we correct that? Will there be environmental contamination based on when we want to repaint it? What do we need to do? really good.
Well, you know, one of the things that I'm gonna tell the mayor that we should do is sell prints. We should sell prints and have an autograph print and sell the prints because I buy the prints.
Yep.
But yeah, and plus, you know, I thought Harriet there are a lot of travel.
Yeah, that's true too. I think we should add her.
Yeah.
Maybe she should definitely be the next one.
Yeah, yeah. I was reading about what's her name? She was instrumental in the women's suffrage movement. I think it's like Penny.
Black
Huh?
Black
Black
person?
person? Yeah.
That would have been
Good, good.
I think she's a Delta.
All is well.
Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm.
I was reading it a couple nights ago.
I thought about you. Say it again.
Is it like Polly, the last name?
Paulie Murray.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. That's what I was.
I thought about
Yes, I do.
Mary McCarthy Boone, but we already have a school named after her. I thought that might have been overkill. And then because he was trying to decide who the third person should be. And I said, it's hard to do Obama and not be MLK. And
Yeah, you have to.
yeah,
That's
and
why
so
I'm glad
that's
I
what he
saw
went
that.
with.
Which one gonna get you?
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. He said he sent it to me.
She can get on me. She can get on me.
Okay.
But
What is that? Your ID? Oh wow.
I had
I've asked for shaking before this thing.
good.
Hotel though.
I don't know. I didn't see.
We can't start till we get Shirley.
Yeah.
She's coming.
Just gonna do a discussion.
Well,
Okay.
but he didn't say anything, and he's here, so I guess so. I hope so.
It'll be even shorter. It'll be even shorter.
Well,
Yeah, if she doesn't, yeah.
Hey, Mr. Evans,
anyway,
is Lanier coming?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe she's supposed to be here.
I didn't hear you. Oh. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. It's just song walk in, so that's what made me think of it.
I call to order the regular City Council meeting for Riviera Beach. The date is March 3rd, and the time is 6:12 p.m. Madam Clerk, please hold the roll.
Here.
Here.
Present.
Here.
Present.
Here.
Thank you. We'll have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Miller Anderson. Thank you. Thank you. Any person who would like to speak on an agenda item, please complete a pink public comment card located at the front desk prior to the item being taken up by City Council for discussion. Members of the public will be given a total of 3 minutes to speak on all items listed on the consent agenda and 3 minutes to speak on each regular item. The time limit for public comment may be reduced by a vote of the City Council based on the voluminous nature of public comment cards. In no event will anyone be allowed to submit a comment card to speak on an agenda item after the resolution is read or the item is considered. Would someone care to make a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. The motion has been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, the adoption of the agenda.
Madam Chair,
Madam Chair.
What?
staff would like to remove item 3
Oh,
off of the
sorry.
agenda.
I'm sorry, item 3. And that is recognition of outstanding work.
Yes, Madam Chair.
You want, what did
I'm
you,
sorry, any other additions, deletions, or substitutions?
Madam Chair, I have a addition to add the water tank project.
Where would we put that on the agenda?
Madam Chair, we can make that item under presentations.
Okay, so that would be item number,
We'd like to remove item 3, recognition of outstanding work of police, sworn, and civilian personnel.
all right, so we now have an item number 2A.
wait a minute, how's it 3A or 2?
I'm sorry, 1, 2, I've got it. Petitions.
This here, that
Oh, well, it's going to be, I guess it's,
3A,
we don't have a 3 anymore.
so, but we did, right?
Yeah, Madam Clerk, what number is it going to be?
Presentations, or we can make it item 3A. We don't have an item 3, so,
We'll make it 2A under awards and presentations,
okay.
since we don't have a 3. Thank you. Any other comments, any other additions or deletions?
No.
If your name is called, when your name is called, please answer yes or no if you want to adopt the agenda, Madam Clerk.
Councilperson Miller Anderson,
Are we doing disclosures?
We're
Disclosures? We do disclosures, that count?
Oh, God. I'm so anxious to get this. It's been so long. Any disclosures?
No.
None. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Councilperson Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier,
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel. Chair Botel.
Yes.
My apologies.
Yes, the agenda is approved by unanimous decision. We're all a little out of it. Okay. The consent agenda. All matters listed under this item are considered to be routine, and action will be taken by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council person so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Does anyone want to pull any item from the consent agenda?
No.
Does anyone wish to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. The approval of the consent agenda is moved and seconded. If you want, please, as your name is called, please answer yes or no. Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lanier,
Yes.
Councilperson Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes. The consent agenda is approved unanimously. Okay.
Item 2A, Madam Chair and members of the board, presentation on the water tank from the Office of the Mayor. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have any public comment on this item. The acceptance of public comment on this item is now closed.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair. Thank you. Back in October, we brought this project to the board, and it was a unanimous vote, yes, but a couple questions that were asked. Did we put it out for bid? What the rendering would be, and who would we put on the water tank? All those questions have been asked. We do have an artist right now. I think he just signed the contract. We put it out for bid. He was the only bidder that went for this project. And I just want to know today, what would it take for us, or could we have your blessings to go ahead and get it started?
Madam Chair.
You recognized.
I saw the news on Friday, I think it was, when it was unveiled, and I just wasn't quite sure if we had an opportunity to see it, because typically the board sees some of these things before they are unveiled to the public. So with this, did it ever come back to us for us to see or to discuss since, October?
No, it wasn't.
Is there a reason why it wasn't shared with us before it was unveiled publicly?
I think we had a meeting with Procurement, CRA, when we were getting the event going for Friday. And we just thought that it would be a good idea just to present why we're at the water tank, having the recognizing our Black History Month pioneers in the city. We just thought that it would be a good idea to kind of bring this forward to the community, let them know what we're going to be doing at the water tank and why we're out at the water tank that day.
And I really think it was a great idea, but I think it would have been nice had the board had an opportunity to see it. Typically, we are provided this information so that we see it before it's put out in the public, especially if it's something that we have all voted on and supported. And I just think as council members, we should have had an opportunity to see that before it was unveiled publicly and into the news. I mean, it was obviously something that you wanted to show. So I agree with that, but I just think I don't think that was proper. And we should have had an opportunity, because we haven't talked about it since October. But I just think that was something that, most times we see these things before they go out, especially like when we did the public art in the CRA area. The community had an opportunity to participate in it. We all saw it, we talked about it, and then it went out. But I didn't understand how that happened that way. But I certainly appreciate the way in which it was done with the Black History Month. But I think that, the council should have had an opportunity to be a part of that. Not necessarily a part of your event that you had, but to have seen it before it went out that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yes, I agree, Madam Chair. I'm sorry. With Council Miller Anderson, I know that I took some heat from the Southside Coalition issue when there was a plaque that was put on the door for the Southside Coalition, and had not spoke with members of the board prior to that happening. And I thought that we had some understanding that that would not happen again at this level. That when we are having unveilings or we're having events that the board has voted on, then it is something that we should be able to see first, at least. But it is a very nice project, and of course that's the reason why we voted for it. But we certainly would have liked to seen it first before it was unveiled to the public and to the media. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree that it would have been proper, I think, for the board to have seen it. And I'm wondering what community involvement there was in deciding what's going to go on the water tank. I'm rereading the memo right now, and I see that there are, it says the figures will be memorialized on this art project, still being finalized. but some names that have been considered are as follows. And I'm just wondering what public engagement will happen prior to anything actually being painted on the tower. Will there be, we had community meetings when we had the other public art projects, and I would think that members of the community would like to weigh in on this. I mean, after all, it's the first thing you see when you come over the tracks. It's sort of going to be, welcome to Revere Beach, even though you're in Revere Beach already, but it's pretty visible on that spot. So I'm just wondering what plans might be in place to be sure that we involve the community as a whole.
Well, I think this is the beginning of this project where we will have more community participation, because we plan on adding more to the tank, and we have some more projects that we're going to be bringing forth that we will have more community participation
So what's the plan then?
to get this done first.
No, but I mean, what's the plan for getting community engagement before you paint anything on the water tower?
Well, we've been going through this for several months now, working with Mr. Evans' office, CRA, and Procurement, and this is what we came up with.
Okay, so there's been no community input?
No.
None. Well, then I object to that, because I think, given that that's the largest structure that you see as you come in, we really need to have community input before we paint anything on that water tower. So if you're looking for a vote of support tonight, I support it wholeheartedly. I believe that it's a good project, but I would certainly think that you would want some community involvement before you go ahead and paint something.
Question, I mean, Ms. Evans, does it have to go for a vote, being that it's up under the threshold of the 25,000?
The project itself is under the manager's threshold, so conceivably it doesn't require any legislative action from the board, but being that the board has stated some concerns with regards to that, it would be hard-pressed for administration to proceed forward without having at least the majority of the board in agreement with moving forward with the project as developed.
Thank you. So can we get a commitment from you, Mr. Evans, that you will have community meetings as to what artwork is going to go on the water tower?
Madam Chair, if I may, and I'll consult with the mayor on this particular matter. If I'm under the same impression, I think the artist is anticipating to start sometime towards the end of the month, so we can conceivably spool up some community meetings and get some discussions on the artwork, and then bring it back at the appropriate venue, and most likely your second meeting in March, to show you what the community input is, as well as the final rendering, assuming that the community agrees with the project as presented.
Okay, thanks very much.
Madam Chair?
Yes, you're recognized.
So they will have several options to choose from, or the rendering that has already been designed is what will be put before them and just get their input?
The intent would be to, and Mr. Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, is to show this particular rendering, but then also share all the list of the names of the persons, because I think the artistic style will remain the same. It would just be the portraits of the persons that would change. Mr. Mayor?
Correct.
Thank you. Anything?
Yeah,
You're
Madam Chair, I think I'm a little confused as to what we're doing here. This is not on the water tank now?
No.
Okay. When they said unveiling, and they talked about this thing on Friday, I didn't know what was going on in terms of the water tank. So what we're doing now is proposing to have community meetings so that people can have input into what it is that goes on. I thought we decided that that's what we would do anyway.
Not yet.
Okay. All right. Well, I certainly agree with that we need to be able to have some input from the people who actually live here to say what goes on that water tank.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, item number 4.
Ordinance number 4162, an ordinance of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending Chapter 22 of the city's Code of Ordinances, entitled Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 2, Building and Technical Code, Section 22-31, Building Code adopted, and Section 22-32, Administrative Amendments to the Florida Building Code, Chapter 1, Administration, by adopting by reference a new administrative code entitled Riviera Beach, amendments to the Florida Building Code, 7th edition, 2020, providing for conflicts, severability, and codification, and providing an effective date. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do have public comment on this item. The acceptance of public comment on this item is now closed.
Thank you. Would someone care to make a motion to
So moved.
approve ordinance 4162 on second reading?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have a second?
Oh, second.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have a presentation, Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, there has been no modifications to ordinance number 4162. Staff recommends approval on second and final reading. If there are any specific questions that the board may have pertaining to this item, Director Clarence Sermon can address those.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, we can have public comment.
Thane Lozman.
Thane Lozman, 5101 North Ocean Drive. I brought this up before. I'm going to bring it up today, and I'll make more comments in my public comment. If we're adopting the Florida Building Code amendments, then we are expected to follow them, okay? And this city doesn't follow the amendments, so what are we doing here? We're setting ourselves up for legal action when you have the Florida Building Code and the amendments you adopt and you don't follow them. We have a city attorney just make stuff up and doesn't even look to the code for what has to be done. I've talked about this before. When Lady March Goldwire was fired because we had adopted the Florida Building Code, she was required to have a hearing before the Florida Building Commission if we didn't have a local board. And I said the same thing. Michael Grimm's going to get fired one day. I know that's coming. You know, with the way Botel behaves. Okay, so the point, why are we adopting something? We should just not adopt anything. We should just make up our own building code. There needs to be some accountability, and right now you're saying we're adopting the Florida Building Code. The people in this audience, the people watching on TV should realize the Florida Building Code gives certain rights to building officials. They're supposed to be autonomous. You know, they can't be improperly influenced. They can't be threatened with their job. We had a black building official was threatened with her job and fired because she gave me a fence permit. And then she didn't have the opportunity to go before the Florida Building Commission or the local board, even though that's what the code says. So it's just a big sham. We go ahead and adopt stuff, and then we just blow it off. And I have a problem with that. And that's all going to be coming out, Botel. You know? So the bottom line is people on the board, I don't know where the other guys are who are listening in, but you know, you've been around this game a long time, Ms. Miller Anderson. You should say, hey, Mr. Sermons, tell me what happens when a building official gets fired. What is going to happen if we adopt this code tonight? I'd like to know the answer. You have the guts to ask that question. What happens if Michael Grimm gets fired tomorrow? What process are we adopting tonight that the Florida Building Code mandates that he goes through? So people come up here and make some comments. I have a question. I want to have an answer to what happens when we adopt Addendum 1, I think it is. What happens to our current building official? Is he going to go sue us in federal court again like Lady March Goldwire did, whose case is going to trial this fall? She survived summary judgment. Said he could be on the hook for $3 million. Does anybody care about that? I want to know what happens if this amendment passes. What happens to the next building official that gets fired? What rights do they have, and what's the liability to the city? And I want an answer to that question.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, that concludes public comment on item number 4.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments on this item? Madam Clerk, it has been moved and seconded that the council approve the ordinance adopting amendments to the Florida Building Code. As your name is called, please answer yes or no.
Councilperson Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier.
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes, that passes by unanimous vote of 3-0. Item number 5.
Discussion on procurement code revisions. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have public comment on this item. The acceptance of public comment on this item is now closed.
Ms. Pemzo.
Madam Chair and members of the board, the item before you this evening is to discuss potential modifications to the procurement code. Staff has been looking at our procurement code and is proposing some modifications for the board's consideration. These will come back in multiple iterations with a code revision, as well as staff is working on a procurement manual to be able to synthesize the procurement activities for departments, as well as your legislative aides that would be assisting in the procurement process. So this is a look and an overhaul with respect to our procurement, and then looking at other municipalities to see where there's some efficiencies and commonalities that the city of Riviera Beach can mimic in the modifications to the procurement code. With that being said, I would like for Director of Procurement, Ms. Althea Pimsel, to make this presentation.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair, Council, City Administration, Mayor. The item before you is for the purposes of reviewing our procurement code. As you know, that technology, business practices, and models, that they change over time. And our goal is to make sure that our code matches not only what's going on in the market, but also what's going on in terms of the capital projects and improvement that the city's doing, in addition to following the best practices for procurement overall. So this discussion is to obtain input and to assist procurement in reimagining its department in order that it can help the city departments meet and exceed their goals. So over the past few months, the process has been consisted of examining our current our current procurement code, looking at the procurement codes of our neighbors, local municipalities around us, receiving input from consultants. Also, we drafted a commercial non-discrimination policy and a rewrite of the cone of silence, and that will be addressed in a separate memorandums. The first goal of the update is to streamline the code by succinctly stating what governs and moving explanatory and extraneous information into a procurement manual. So the process includes identifying and eliminating outdated provisions, updating and adding and deleting some definitions to make them more current, and also to combine application and the best practice of the code. After reviewing other codes in the area, we know that there will be adjustments in some areas after we do our disparity study, and to review like our thresholds to match the operational needs, and also consider alternative sources, alternative methods of sourcing. With that being said, I wanted to give you a few examples of what we would be looking at and changing. And as Mr. Evans said, there will be several reiterations of this. For example, one of the areas that we would be looking to move to the manual and to change would be the public access to procurement information. We spell it out in our code, but it is not in line with the current Florida statute, so we will adjust that kind of provision to match the Florida statute. We would just cite that as our governing tool as opposed to having it ourselves. Also, we will use our manual to further explain that to our departments and our users so they would understand the cities and their individual responsibilities in that regard. One of the things that we also want to update is the authority and the duties. As you know, our duties continue to expand over time, so we're going to be updating language like that. Another thing that we are looking at is to see about increasing the threshold of the city manager's authority. And currently our code does not even give the procurement director authority, so that's something that we're asking you guys to consider as well. Additionally, unauthorized purchases. This is when commitments are made on behalf of city staff that's not authorized. The code gotten here to help staff understand that their role is extreme. We need to be sure that we don't commit the city to expend funds that we have not been authorized to do so. Additionally, the competitive ceiling process. There's a 14-day requirement that we feel would be a hindrance to the operation, since our goal these days is to go big and to go fast. It does not assist or help the operation in any sort of way, but we will put additional information in the procurement language about the competitive process, ensuring that our departments understand. And we want to raise the small threshold. Currently, it's 2,500. We'd like to see about raising that a little bit more so that the departments then can do a lot of routine purchases. Another provision that we have has to do with single and sole source. Source means that there's only, we're choosing a company to do it. And we have used sole source because we did not have a provision for original equipment manufacturing. So a lot of times it's really not a sole source. It's simply that we need to buy the same piece of equipment to match what's already installed. So that would be a provision, and we will see the number of sole sources go down as a result of that, because it's really replacing original equipment. Cost data and pricing. The language here has not been applied in the department, and there's some reasons for that, because it would be you're getting pricing before you do the solicitation, and that's a little bit out of kilter, because we could just use the solicitation process to get the prices, because you don't want to have firms to provide prices for you and provide a scope and then try to bid on it later. We're putting our firms at a disadvantage, so we need to alter that language to make it clearer. Those are just a few of the updates and deletions and changes I have. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much. Any questions?
Yes, Madam
You're
Chair.
recognized.
For the increase from the 2,500, what was the amount you all were looking at moving it up
It
to?
is currently 2,500 without any quotes, but it will be under 5,000, one quote. Anything over 5,000 are 3 quotes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
That was the question.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have no other questions. 6.
Discussion on proposed revisions to Cone of Silence ordinance.
Madam Chair and members of the board, this item is to discuss some modifications to the Cone of Silence. Deputy City Manager, Ms. Elizabeth McBride, will be making the presentation. She has also done some extensive research with regards to the county's ordinance as well as other municipalities, and to put some additional language that better ensures the compliance related to the Code of Silence consistent with.
We're going to take a brief recess until we have a quorum. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. Thank you. We'll resume the meeting now.
The city's corner silence policy or ordinance is found in Chapter 2 of the City Code, and is found in the area dealing with lobbyist registration. However, when you review the cone of silence, clearly the language within the ordinance refers to and relates to our procurement activities. But this is not unusual that you might find it under lobbyist registration and things of that nature. And one of the primary reasons that you would find it there is because the main reason for creating such legislation is to prohibit vendors, their agents and representatives from lobbying and communicating with our city or governmental employees or elected officials during the procurement process. And if you look at our particular code, presently it provide or prohibit the vendor or bidder and their agents from communicating with members of the city council or any employees authorized to act on behalf of the city council, as well as the city council legislative staff. Since being here, we have looked and we've been reviewing the procurement code and looking at the activities that will be coming down the line. After examining many other city provisions, whenever I found that there has been a situation generally of an elected mayor, not ceremonial mayors, because ceremonial mayors are included because they are generally part of the elected commission or council body. They too are included. So with the proposal, it does add the mayor or his or her legislative staff, as we have the city council and their legislative staff presently. One other provision that was missing that we thought was very important, and if you look and notice procurement activities of the city, you must say that by the time the matter comes to the council, the decision has been made, the bidder has been selected, you are provided with the name and a proposed contract for approval. So in light of that, we thought there should be some prohibition that would govern city staff. And the proposed vision in the section A3 deals with the professional staff included but not limited to the city manager and staff, city department directors and their staff, or any consultants involved with our solicitations. And I think, because we could not think of any reason why only the city council, if staff was making a tremendous amount of decisions related to the procurement process.
What's an example of that? Give me an example of how that would work.
How it works? The staff bring you your name?
Yeah.
If you go back to the last meeting, you had several matters that were approved, construction related, right? From Public Works. Some of those would have been procured. I cannot tell you. I would, if Ms. Pencil can, I would ask her to answer that. Councilwoman Lanier wanted me to give them an example. And I said at the last council meeting, there were several items coming through Public Works related to matters that had been procured. Okay. Am I right? Okay. But by the time they got here, the vendor was decided, and the name and the document came to the council.
Althea Pepso, Procurement Director. It is not unusual that the vendors lobby our staff to award contracts to them. It's not based on whether they're not worthy or whether they provide quality work. But this will assist us in having parameters in place so that they are not lobbied inappropriately, and it also helps the city staff to understand what the parameters are, and the bidding community, because this will also be shared with the bidding community in our solicitations.
Did you get an answer?
That's very good. And I wanted to also add that in doing this, does that mean that if a potential bidder comes in, lobbies your staff, that means that they they can't get the bid, they can't go forward? I mean, what is the repercussions if that happens?
I'm sorry, would you repeat the first part of that? You said that if a company comes in and they've provided pricing, they can't get the bid?
Right. She's saying that we're putting parameters around how you interact with staff around bids.
Okay.
I'm saying if they go outside of those parameters based on what you presenting us, what are the repercussions?
Basically, the ordinance provide that any contract entered into in violation of the Code of Silence provisions is rendered voidable, okay, by the city. Okay. All right. I would say that is the major change. Oh, there. The second major change from about this ordinance is when will the Code of Silence be implemented? Presently, we provide that it's implemented at the time the solicitation bids are received. Okay. The new language proposed that it will become effective as of the date and time the solicitation is released to the public. Okay. And one reason we thought that was okay is because after it's released to the public, we tend to have pre-bid conferences, allow the bidders to come in, they can ask questions, but anytime, and correct me, Ms. Penzel, if I'm wrong, anytime leading up to the final selection, bidders can submit written questions, and if those questions are submitted, answers are given and they are provided to all bidders as part of that process. Yes, that's correct. Okay, all right. Okay. Otherwise, I think for the most part, the ordinance provisions remain the same. We have certain small things that might have been added that weren't really there. The termination of the Code of Silence is still basically the same, is provided or expounded upon, and it does provide that the cone will terminate at the time the city council or the city manager acts on behalf of the city, awards or approves a contract, rejects all bids, etc. The only new provision is should the matter come to you and you don't make a decision and you send it back either to the committee, the procurement director, the manager, that the cone will be evoked again until you make a final decision.
Go ahead, you're recognized.
I had a question, Madam Chair. For when these bids, the RFPs, RFQs go out, we will be notified, everyone will be notified? Because most of the times, I mean, I'm not always following bids that are being released, so a lot of times you don't know that it's out.
That is out, okay. And we did correct that this time too,
Okay.
under the proposed provision under paragraph C. It does say at the time of imposition of the Code of Silence, the procurement director shall issue a written notice to the affected departments, the city clerk, city manager, mayor, and city council members.
And as well as the staff and the legislative staff, all of those
Oh,
were
yes,
included?
okay. We'll make sure,
Yeah.
make sure that language is there too.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you for providing us a red line version of this. It makes it much easier to understand what the changes are, and I appreciate that. And I very much appreciate the changes because it's so much easier for us to say, look, I'm sorry, I can't speak with you about this. There's a code of silence in place. It really relieves us of the hassle, if you will, of chatting with people about something that really should not be chatted about. So I appreciate that.
We hope it would be helpful.
It's helpful. Thank you. Anything else? Thank you, Ms.
Yeah.
McBride.
I've been working with Ms. Penzel, as you see, with her
Excellent.
extensive project she has available dealing with the disparity study too. And can we move to the
Let's
next
move
item?
to item 7, yes. Trying to keep track.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have any public comment on item number 7. The acceptance of public comment on item number 7, discussion on proposed commercial non-discrimination ordinance is now closed.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I can have Deputy City Manager Elizabeth McBride make this presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Evans. The best way I can say why we are here with this particular proposed ordinance. At the December 16th, 2020 meeting that you had where the disparity study consultants presented, the question was asked, what could be put in place while we waiting for the outcome of our disparity study and for recodification of our MWB program? And the response by one of the consultants, Attorney Franklin Lee, was that we should consider adopting a commercial non-discrimination policy.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. We have been working with Attorney Lee with the drafting of this particular policy. As you see, some of the intent of the policy is to address three objectives. One, to establish a clear policy on behalf of the city of dealing with commercial non-discrimination. We hope that this has been adequately addressed in Section A, B, and C, because they will provide the statement of policy for the city, indicating that the city is not seeking to do business with commercial firms or businesses which engage in discrimination in the provision of their goods and services. It also identifies who this particular policy would apply to, and if you look at it, basically, it would apply to all persons doing business with the city, and be they business entities or persons. It also would apply to our third-party contracts between the city, even other governmental entities, other businesses, developers, and anyone receiving funds from the city of Revere Beach. And let's see. It does require the Director of Purchasing to implement the policy. Hopefully the teeth that was viewed to be within the policy relate to the three contract provisions that are being provided in the policy. One is a mandatory non-discrimination contract clause that is being recommended for inclusion in all city contracts, as well as subcontracts that flow from our city contracts, especially when you get into especially construction industry. There's a lot of subcontracts that might enter, I guess. And basically what it does—
Mic check.
Well, that works. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. It does have the person warrant that they will abide by our commercial non-discrimination policy. It does have the contractor, the contracting company provide that they shall try to provide equal opportunity for subcontractors, vendors, and suppliers to participate in our contracting and subcontracting activities, as well as other private ones they engage in. And a violation of this particular provision, if included in the contract, is viewed as a material breach of their agreement, and it will provide that it may result possibly in termination of the agreement for that particular provision. There's another provision requiring language in our competitive solicitation documents, and that is in paragraph B2. And within that—
Excuse me, Ms. McBride, go ahead,
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
recognized.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to ask the question in regards to complaints, and is that handled through our legal department, or is it handled through procurement? How does that—
How will we do that? It will provide a complaint process, and right now we are working up, and it will be the ordinance provide that this process and a hearing process will be established with legal and procurement input for approval by the city manager as an administrative hearing process.
So it'll go through the process of procurement, legal, then city manager?
No, well, wait, the complaint? No.
Yes.
What I'm saying is the complaint process and the hearing process will be addressed as an administrative procedure. It is not yet outlined. we have documents that will be reviewed and are being reviewed, and basically will provide for the complaint and hearing process. If you look, let me see, hold on. I think basically the idea was that the legal and procurement would come together, review the complaint process. There are some municipalities have a complaint process that provide for an administrative hearing. Some have a process that provide for arbitration. The school district does there at Department of Administrative Services door. So basically, we thought that the city needed to take time to look at which process it would use to make sure that they understand the cost involved. And we do not have that, and that's how come we want it to be done as an administrative procedure that legal and procurement would then present to the manager for approval.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead. Thank you.
And when we look at the record keeping that's required, or that the city can, because it does require the contractor to maintain records of their activities to meet the policy and the discrimination policy. If you look at things that must be certified by the contractor, and those are found in subparagraph D2, contract solicitation requirements and all. It does also have some consequences, that if it's determined that a bidder has provided false certification of information to us, it can lead to a rejection of that bid or termination of any contract awarded. It also requires the bidder to agree to promptly provide to the city all information and documentation that may be requested from time to time regarding the solicitation and their selection of suppliers and subcontractors in the process. So any failure to do so can also lead to a rejection of the bid and consequences to the bidder. As part of the bid process, the contractor would have to indicate whether within the last 4 years they have received any complaints relative to non-discrimination by bidders or suppliers and all. Okay. And then the final contract disclosure requirement is in paragraph D3, and it will provide that all contracts the city entered into will entail a clause that relates to the prompt reporting and documentation that the city may request from time to time regarding solicitation, selection, treatment, and payment of subcontractors. And it does give a time period of 60 days for information. And that's where we are with this.
Thank you. So the purpose of your presenting this tonight is so that you can get input from us, and then at some future date, you'll present us with the
For
final
both of them,
ordinance.
if you have some input that you like to give to us, we did want to get that in advance so that we could bring these policies as we start, these ordinances as we bring the procurement ordinance.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to add, Madam Chair, I'd also like to add, when we're looking at reviewing complaints and we're looking at doing these investigations, that we have skilled investigators.
Okay.
People who are aware, who have background, and who know about how to investigate. They're just not lay people, but who are trained in investigation so that they can do their due diligence if there is a complaint.
Anything else? Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. This is a good first step towards our eventual policy. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
And now we have let's see, we're good. Item number 8.
Discussion on Palm Beach County Community Development Block Grant Program, fiscal year 2020-2021, award of funds. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have any public comments on this item. The acceptance of public comment on this item is now closed.
Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair and members of the board, pursuant to a conversation that we had with the board back in September of 2020, the City of Riviera Beach receives an annual allocation of CDBG funds, Community Development Block Grants, that's provided by the federal government. The city roughly receives about $194,000 annually, and then this year we received some additional monies associated with the Special Area of Hope allocation that provided an additional $364,000 for a total of $558,000. Originally, it was contemplated, and the city in the past has utilized this money, CDBG monies, for roadway projects. This money was set aside for the reconstruction of 35th Street Avenue H to Avenue F. But when we had conversations with the board, we thought we can do more, and we thought we can really utilize the federal funding that comes once in a blue moon. And as we know, there's 39 municipalities in Palm Beach County, so it's going to circle. And so we were fortunate enough this year to be able to receive the funds. Working in collaboration with the Office of the Mayor as well as the council, there are certain areas of interest and programs that the board wanted to see come to life. So you will hear presentations from multiple departments as to how we would like to utilize the allocation. First and foremost is the Code Compliance Community Engagement Program, which in essence is an ambassador type program for the rest of our community. We see the ambassador program that is very successful in the CRA and wanted to expand that. The proposed allocation for that program is $340,000. The other program is an Urban Farm Collaborative. This is building on the Sow and Grow program that Councilperson Lanier has spearheaded and looking to utilize some facilities that the city has or some property to move forward with an urban farm collaborative project. And we have a great presentation for you this evening associated with that. And then one of the things that we have spoken about when the CARES money was allocated, the City of Riviera Beach, working in collaboration with Palm Beach County, was looking to address some of the digital divide concerns. And so we are asking to put an additional $100,000 into the project to allow for all public parks within the City of Riviera Beach to be able to be Wi-Fi hotspots where persons can utilize internet access. Ms. Deirdre Jacobs, the Assistant City Manager, has spearheaded this program, so she will provide a program update and then allow for the respective department directors leading those initiatives to come forward and share their presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Good evening, Chair Botel, Mayor Felder, other council persons in your respective places, Mrs. Nguyen and Mr. Evans. For the record, my name is Deirdre Jacobs, and I'm the Assistant City Manager here with the City of Riviera Beach. Mr. Evans pretty much summed up my presentation. It is a project wherein back in the month of September of 2020, the council voted on a resolution to approve street improvements over off of 35th Street, Avenue H to Avenue F. Those were community development block grant funds, which the city receives on an annual basis from Palm Beach County. Usually the amount is a little over $150,000, maybe up to $170,000. And for the past several years, based on my understanding, they've always been used for street improvements. Because we received additional monies this year, they're called Special Area of Hope allocations dollars, which the city only receives like every several years because they're rotated by the county. We thought that we might come up with more creative ways to use the money as opposed to using it for street improvements. We made contact with the county, and they are allowing us to use those funds for other projects. So what our staff did is we got together, brainstormed, and tried to think of creative ways wherein we would be able to come up with projects that actually benefited a greater number of people in a more enthusiastic manner. The projects that we're asking you to consider, as Mr. Evans mentioned, would be code compliance, the Urban Farm Collaborative Project, and the City Parks Digital Divide Wi-Fi Installation Program. So Mr. Sermons, the Code Compliance Community Engagement Program would be administered under the Development Services Department, in particular the Code Enforcement or Code Compliance Division and Mr. Sermons can give you a brief overview of how we've designed that particular project.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Jacobs. The Code Compliance Community Ambassador Program would essentially augment the services already provided to the city through the Code Compliance Division. These persons working in this program would be a little different because they wouldn't focus as much on the administrative portion of it in terms of presenting cases to the magistrate judge as the code compliance officers does, but it would be more of a community-based interaction with the residents of those neighborhoods. And the part that really stands out about this is a lot of the services that are provided by the CRA Ambassador Program are limited to the boundaries of the CRA. So this would expand some of those services, combine them with what our code officers do, but also be more of a source of information and support for the residents there as ambassadors do. So this type of community-based compliance, we think, will allow us to expand the results that we see in the CRA beyond those boundaries to other neighborhoods. And it would be administered in a similar fashion of our existing code enforcement officers. The persons in this program would be assigned a zone which would allow them to more familiarize themselves with those neighborhoods, those residences, and the businesses in those residences, so they can establish those relationships and be kind of a partner in those communities to get the types of results and effects that we are looking to see in these neighborhoods. And that's a summary of it, and we've worked with my division of code compliance. We've spoken extensively with CRA, and we've looked at the kind of code enforcement parameters that the county is looking for with these types of funds, and we built the program based off of that, and I'm happy to answer any questions related to it.
Thank you. Would the 5 staff persons being hired be Riviera Beach residents?
We haven't discussed whom, but we certainly want to start with our own residents to make sure that those persons that know the community best
It
are the
would
ones
certainly
working
seem
with it.
sensible to me if you're going to be
Absolutely.
hiring people that you want to get into the community and know the community, you'd want to be hiring community residents, but thank you.
Absolutely.
Any questions from? Thank you so much. Sounds great.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, if I may, applicable to this program, we've set aside funding to be able to do this program for 2 years, and then that gives us adequate time to build it into our budget if the program is successful, which we know it will be, to have it as a reoccurring initiative moving forward.
Great, thank you. Okay, Urban Farm. Mr. Evans?
This particular presentation will be made by Director Blankenship in partnership with a nonprofit organization that is very enthusiastic, a lot of energy, and I can tell you that, you know, as a city manager, we're not supposed to like any particular project more than another, but this is probably one of my favorite projects because of the enthusiasm this group has, and I think the vegetables that will come to bear as a result of this particular initiative. So, Director Blankenship.
Good evening, everyone, councils, mayor, city manager Richard Blankenship, Parks and Recreation Director. You know, the beauty of being in Parks and Recreation, there's more often than not those opportunities to do something really cool and really effective. And when Ms. Franks brought me this project a few months ago, it was very exciting. We just had to move forward with it. Before I turn the mic over to Ms. Brown and let her do her presentation, just to let you know, the city's role is fiscal agent, providing ingress and egress and parking at Barracuda Bay, eliminating any recurring cost, and assisting with volunteers and folks to help with the urban farm. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Ms. Brown.
The council members, I'm excited to be here. A little cold, but really excited. So my name is Valika Brown. I'm the CEO of eRoadmap Corporation, and this is our team, and we're just going to kind of flow through the presentation. I don't know how I can move forward or who I should cue. You? Okay. Is the clicker? just a little bit about eRoadmap Corporation. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization located right here in West Palm Beach. This initiative, Operation No Food Gap, is in partnership with the American Heart Association, and they are here to speak a little bit more about the initiative. But just real quickly, Operation No Food Gap is a transformative approach to address hunger in multiple underserved communities throughout Palm Beach County. And this initiative entails creating and building to capacity farms and community gardens to produce robust yields enough to feed upwards of 250 plus families on a weekly basis. Within our initiative, we have slated to work in areas Riviera Beach, West Palm Beach, Delray, Jupiter, and Belle Glade. Within building the gardens and also the farms, we're going to host nutritional workshops and quarterly events. So for Q2 through Q4 2021, we have allocated 52 events just for Riviera Beach. So I'd like to have my business partner and just the partner representing American Heart to come up and just speak a little bit about what we're doing within Operation No Food Gap.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Sheree Williston. I am the Community Impact Director for the American Heart Association. I am not going to go into depth about the organization, but I will say that our mission statement is to be a relentless force for a world of longer, healthier lives. And in doing that, I have the honor of working in Palm Beach, Martin, and St. Lucie counties to look at population level impact around health and wellness. So when I met Ms. Brown and learned about the work that she was doing, I definitely thought that this was a place where the American Heart Association would love to commit our time, talent, and resources to work in Riviera Beach in a more really concerted effort to ensure health outcomes are improved. One of our pillars that we're working on is in nutrition security, and a huge part of that is looking at equitable outcomes. So this is definitely a program, an initiative that is going to yield equitable outcomes in health. We know that having healthy, fresh foods accessible in a community for the community to learn not only about the availability of these foods, but also how to use them and how to prepare them and how they impact their health really does improve health outcomes. So we also know that the lack of healthy, affordable foods leads to poorer health outcomes, disproportionate levels of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and also diabetes. So we were really looking to impact those conditions both inside and outside of the health centers. So we already work in Riviera Beach with some health centers. We've done gardening with schools, and we are looking to really work with eRoadmap Corporation to bring this amazing project to fruition. So thank you.
So we have two more of our team members here. We have Cal Shelton, who's the CEO of NewGen International, and Amy Simeon, the CEO of Grow. And they're going to talk a little bit later in the presentation. But just to talk about our core values, within eRoadmap, especially with Operation No Food Gap, we know step one is always to feed the people. And this is an image that was taken on the 20th of December of last year, where we partnered with Parks and Rec and at Wells Recreation Center with the help of American Heart as well as the Palm Beach Food Bank. We were able to provide food to over 345 families. Now, at that same event, we were able to give out surveys, and we received over 80 plus paper surveys from residents in Riviera Beach about some of the events that we have planned and their input. Another core value is step two, evaluating what we are feeding the people, and step three, teach the people how to fish. Because my mindset is with COVID, of course, we can feed the people, but what are we feeding the people? And I'm pretty passionate about that, because if we're feeding people things that in the long run are going to do more damage, even though they fill your bellies right now, are we really putting a Band-Aid on a situation, or are we really repairing the situation? So that's why we're very passionate about teaching and educating people about nutrition and changing the habits and the things that we focus on and things we teach our families. So now I'm going to bring up my partners. So As Mr. Blankenship mentioned, there are 2 areas that are allocated, unused land right on Blue Heron beside Barracuda Bay. And what we're proposing to do is take 1 lot for mass production of farming, take the 2nd lot that is accessible from the parking lot of Barracuda Bay and have that as a community garden, but not just as a community garden, but also the workshop location and a farmer's market, because our vision is to take the non-GMO organic foods that are grown in Riviera Beach to serve the residents of Riviera Beach, to have those accessible at the farmer's market. But what is so amazing about it is within our organization, we have a mobile food pantry that also serves as a mobile POS system. We are SNAP, EBT, and Fresh Access Bucks approved. So if you're not familiar with the Fresh Access Bucks program, for example, if someone initiates a purchase using SNAP, and maybe they go to buy 1 orange, but they have Fresh Access Bucks, that may give them 2 more free oranges. So now they have 3. But we took it a step further and we brought in American Heart. American Heart said, hey, we'll provide coupons. So when you do your farmer's market, let's say, for example, they spend $10 at produce, we're going to give them $5 in produce free. Then Mr. Evans got excited and said, well, hey, maybe with the city, we can give some coupons out too. So our goal is to increase the buying power for the residents to purchase non-GMO organic foods produced in Riviera Beach, because when you talk about the idea that we have a food desert and we have a food swamp, if you don't address the core root, what are we dealing with? If people get government assistance, but all they can do is buy chips, that's what they're going to feed their kids, or chips. But if we can allow them to use those resources and expand those resources and teach them about sauteing carrots or kale or whatever it is they want to eat, now we're changing their habits and we're changing their taste buds and we're improving their health. That's what we're passionate about doing. So Amy can come up and tell you about her business, because that's her drawing for the garden, and then we'll ask Cal to come up right behind her and talk about the mass production of the farmland.
Great, good evening, thank you so much. My name is Amy Simeon, and I do own a business called Grow Garden Box. So my business, I have the pleasure of helping people introduce more nature into their lives. I am also a Florida Master Gardener, so as you know, there are a lot of volunteer hours involved with that, and I've worked closely with the City of West Palm Beach Downtown Development Authority, and I have to say that this is the most exciting project that I will have worked on to date, hopefully. With Velika's vision and the partners that we have, we've really been able to design this space to reflect a sense of community and education. I know the drawing is small, but if you have ever been to Barracuda Bay and you've driven in, seen the complex on your right, just look straight ahead and imagine a welcoming entrance where it's a gathering place, and then on your right, you're going to see all the garden beds. That's at the top of the drawing. And then on the perimeter, little boxes, we've got a lot of workshop spaces. We've got education spaces for Florida native plants, for Florida-friendly plants, the pollinators. We've got composting areas, and at the bottom of the drawing, that would be the marketplace. So again, the focus is on community, the focus is on education, and I think it's a very exciting opportunity. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kyle Shelton. I'm the owner of New Gen International. It's a vegetable seed and breeding company based right here in, actually out of Loxahatchee. I guess I'm here to talk about the production that we can do out there. And I mean, my background is I've worked on urban farms in West Philadelphia for years, setting these up. I have a 5-acre piece in Loxahatchee that I produce commercial organic vegetable crops on right now. And I'm here to basically just tell us that this is something that I think we can definitely do. We're in a very good place to grow commercial veggies. In fact, this used to be the salad bowl of the United States not that long ago. And I think it's like all these ladies here are saying, it's something that's important for us to be doing, is to produce food where it's needed most. And I think that helps people interact with it, see it, understand what it is. And one of the nice things about where we are here is that, you know, we can grow all sorts of things that people can't grow anywhere else in this country. And educating folks on what those are, what actual food is, and more importantly, teaching folks that, you know, maybe we shouldn't be spraying chemicals on our food, and maybe we shouldn't be using all these other artificial fertilizers, pesticides, things like that, that we don't necessarily need. And I think having a nice public space where we can do a lot of that education is good, but more importantly, we need to actually be able to produce food, because I've worked on a lot of these projects where, you know, we get started and everything's gung-ho, and by the time season 2 runs around, it's a bunch of weeds. And that's, you know, it's a waste of everyone's time and money working on it. And, you know, I'm here to make sure that that doesn't happen when we do this. So we'll be growing commercial quantities of crops. I don't see any reason why we couldn't pump out 8,000 to 10,000 pounds a year of, you name it, organic tomatoes, lettuce, herbs, whatever we really want. I think it should be heart-friendly stuff, but we can talk about that. So that's me, and I think that's what I'm here to say.
Thank you.
So this is a flow chart, and I think the budget has increased because there may be some additional anticipated funding, which is always great. But the flow chart shows you that E-Roadmap would be the project lead, because we certainly don't want to put additional stress on a member already. We know that Parks and Rec, they have their responsibilities, everyone has their responsibilities, so we'll be the project lead. Now, under that project lead is the ONFG program manager. So E-Roadmap Corporation will personally hire someone to help regulate everything that's happening within the farm and the garden. Obviously, you see NewGen and also Grow, Parks and Rec, their responsibilities will be the irrigation as well as the security of the space. The city of Riviera Beach, they will retain ownership of the land. We're just asking that they also keep up with the insurances, and then American Heart is there. Now, the volunteer farm team, as Mr. Blankenship spoke to, will all work together to engage residents to help. But we know that if you're looking to mass produce food on this level, it can't be maintained strictly from volunteers. So our organization is owning a responsibility to take on the salaries that are needed to hire professional farmers and permaculturists to make sure this happens. And it feeds into the farm, it feeds into the garden, and then also the farmer's market. So just showing you how it works. So in respect to what's highlighted here on the budget, E-Roadmap Corporation will give into this project $88,950. We believe in it, we want to support the community, and we are all in. The city of Riviera Beach, initially, we are asking for $50,707 to help build the infrastructure. The great thing about that is once the infrastructure is built, it isn't something that you have to continuously build every year, so it's not an ongoing cost. American Heart is there for $35,000 to help with a lot of things that we need to do, and Parks and Rec has helped us with some in-kind donations of sinks and things of that sort. Now, the light bulb represents that we can always put a survey on the city's website for the farm and community garden name suggestions. We are open to that. We are also open to putting out suggestions about culturally relevant items that people would like to grow, because you have so many cultures here, and we participate in a lot of folks groups. We're building a community garden now for Rise, and one thing that the residents spoke about was being from different areas, Jamaica and Haiti and Trinidad, and how they grew up cooking. They can't find those things here. So we want to keep that top of mind and get the input from the residents and work with our farmers to make sure that's available to grow. And you all probably have a copy of the budget, but I just wanted to highlight the breakdown so you can see exactly when we're talking about infrastructure, what we're purchasing, what is needed, how it's all allocated. And to wrap up, together, this isn't updated, but together we can work to change the narrative for Riviera Beach. I know I've been here in Palm Beach County. I'm a transplant. I came from Maryland 6 years ago. I love it. It's great. And sometimes we do hear negative things, as we do with any city. So we can just decrease, in my opinion, the crime by bringing forth more activities. We can decrease the stress and anxiety that people naturally feel, and that is now compounded because of COVID by introducing farming and yoga and meditation. We can improve our health issues by introducing the health and nutrition education. And just a side note, urban gardening is a buzzword now, so that definitely will help with tourist attractions. People want to see what's happening, what food is being grown. They want to purchase food that is locally grown to reduce the miles in which the food travels. And this is a fun picture of us, so it's ONFG, American Heart, Parks and Rec, a lot of volunteers, the Riviera Beach Police Department, when we did an event at Wells. So we're very excited. Yes, we're very passionate and we're very committed. And thank you so much for the time to present.
Thank you so much. Great project. I have a quick question. What, if any, is the interaction with our CRA community gardens?
So we know that the CRA has a community garden, and it looks fantastic. And we are certainly open to, if we can, increase the budget and extend some of the programs to that garden, no doubt about it. But what we're looking to do here is just full-on engagement with the community. I mean, every single week, activities, not just gardening, but health screenings, health nutritional cooking classes every single week, because that's what we do. And within our nonprofit, we get funding from CSC, from Community Foundation, from Quantum, we just have a lot of funders who, if they're watching, we love you and thank you so much, and they believe in our work, so we're able to pull some of our resources into this project. So it is a non-compete, because I know you all have many projects, smaller projects in Riviera Beach, and we're willing to extend some of our services there if needed.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments? You're recognized.
This is a program that I'm very excited about. I have been talking about, when I got involved with the Sow and Grow program through the CRA, expanding this program. Hats off to Mr. Evans, because he told me that he had something for me and that I would have to wait to see the presentation, and this is beyond my wildest imagination. I wanted to be able to expand the Sow and Grow program here in the city. I also, I've said at several meetings that when I go and I see these people, waiting in these long lines to get food from these different organizations, and I'm saying there has to be a better way that we can bring something here to the city so that people can learn how to grow their own food. Everybody can't do it, but a lot of people are involved in it. It was very surprising to me with the Sow and Grow program. A part of that was giving away the soil and the seed and the beds. They gave out. So people do participate in this, and to be able to have a full-fledged farm in the city to feed ourselves, by ourselves, for ourselves, is something that I certainly am very excited about. So there are two things I wanted to ask. The first thing is the irrigation system. How is that going to work for, is the city going to be responsible for that, or how does that work? Because of course, that's an issue.
I'm going to leave that to Mr. Blankenship.
Yes, ma'am. We already have irrigation there, so we'll continue to maintain that.
Oh, very good, very good. And also, too, the second thing is I want to be able to make sure that because we're not too far from Solatron, to make sure that we do some soil testing for that area before we get started with our farming project. Just to make sure.
Yes, I think Mr. Blankenship did some initial soil testing, and we're going to do our soil test and send it to U of F. But if you want to speak to yours.
Yeah, we, not because of Solatron, but because of a structure that was previous there, had a geotechnical engineer take a look, and everything is good there.
All right, very good, excellent. But I'm very excited about this. This is something that I certainly was not expecting. I thought it was going to be on a smaller scale, but this is certainly something that we need for the city so that we don't have to go to anybody to get anything. We can grow it for ourselves and feed ourselves right here in the city of Riviera Beach. So I'm very excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to thank Mr. Evans and his staff and for your organization coming to Riviera Beach to provide this service. It goes along with our citywide goals of getting community engaged and then also great neighborhoods. I tried doing a garden in my yard and it didn't quite work out for me. So I definitely appreciate it. I know that, eating better will help increase everyone's health. And unless we start trying to take that back, and getting away from the fast foods and all of that stuff, we're going to continue to have the health issues that we're having. And so I think this is a perfect opportunity for our community to be able to get off that blood pressure medicine. And as well as be able to just, live a better, healthier lifestyle. So I appreciate you all for coming and working with our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. It's a great
Yes,
project.
thank you. And Madam Chair, I just want to add, Ms. Jacobs, thank you so much for putting this together. Thank you so much, because I've been talking about this for a very long time, so thank you so much for your help.
Thank you. Good job.
We still have one more project.
And if we can hold our applause for Chris, he's got an exciting program as well that is going to address a lot of the concerns and things that we've discussed to ensure that we close the gap related to the digital divide.
We'll give him an applause as well. We'll applaud for Chris, too.
Good evening, Madam Chair, council members, and Mr. Mayor. The only thing I have is that we are looking to put Wi-Fi in the municipal parks. Currently, we have worked with Comcast, and we have surveyed all the parks in the city, and they have given us 5 locations that are feasible at this point in time. There's further construction. It depends where the cables run along the roads, and there's a lot of back-end requirements needed. So currently, there are 5 parks that Ms. Jacobs worked with us and identified some funding for this, and we worked with Mr. Blankenship to identify which parks have the most need. But those the 5 that we have are Cunningham Park, Tate, Dan Calloway Tate, Farrington Park, Sadie McRae Park, Goodman Park, and there's a possibility that we're going to look into wells after this in the outdoor areas as well. But right now, those are the 5 parks that we're targeting. Comcast is going to require about 90 days to actually put this thing in place. It will go on light poles in the parks, or if there's another area that's more feasible. And of course, we'll put a sign, and then the closer you are, the better the Wi-Fi. Further you are, the way, that's just kind of how the Wi-Fi works. But it will have the options for Comcast, and then the residents can, log on, do whatever they need to do, and it's just a good opportunity for the city to have it in the parks.
Thank you. Any questions?
And Madam Chair, this also builds on the network that the school district and
Yes.
Mr. Prasad, if you can talk about that, how it intertwines, that in essence we would have a large section of our community that would have access to the internet.
So the school district is doing municipal Wi-Fi based on school students right now. So you have to have a school district student ID to get onto their Wi-Fi. That Riviera Beach is slated for that. We've been in communications with the school district several times and the county. They are putting poles up that have a solar panel on there, and that solar panel will basically create a mesh wireless network. So basically, if you're anywhere in that mesh, you'll have access to that. This addresses more where you have less, because the school district's network is going to be very restrictive. It's just because they're kids. We don't want to do anything bad. It's just the way things are. This is going to be more open, where you can do like bills. You could, do other additional things beyond just, schoolwork and everything else. So, and you will not need a school district ID to log on to the network. So this will be a little more open for residents beyond just students.
Any other questions? Oh, yay!
And I thought that was a tough act to follow. They were so good.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you, Ms. Jacobs.
Oh,
Great
no
progress.
problem. Thank you for listening to us. So as you can see, this is truly a team effort amongst our community as well as our employees here with the City of Riviera Beach. We just ask that moving forward, if you would give Mr. Evans the authority to execute an agreement with the county. Of course, it would be an amended agreement because the initial one was signed off on in September of 2020 that allowed for the street improvements. This one would allow for the code enforcement project, the digital divide project, and the urban farm to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it is past 7:30, so please be reminded that the City Council has adopted rules of decorum for public comment during official meetings, which has been posted at the entrance. In an effort to preserve order, if any of the rules are not adhered to, the council chair may have any disruptive speaker or attendee removed from the podium, from the meeting, and/or the building if necessary. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Public comment shall begin at 7:30 unless there is no further business of the City Council, which in the event it shall begin sooner. In addition, if an item is being considered at 7:30 p.m., then comments from the public shall begin immediately after the item has been concluded. Any person who would like to speak during public comments, please fill out a public comment card located at the front desk and give it to staff before the public comment section is announced.
Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, Deirdre. I didn't realize you wanted us to vote on that. But
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
okay, well then let's hold off on public comment for just a minute. I'm sorry. So let's see. Would someone care to make a motion that we approve the projects presented this evening by Assistant City Manager Jacobs?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, and I think we've had enough discussion, yes? Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lanier?
Yes.
Councilperson Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Chair Botel?
Yes, that is approved with great thanks and unanimity.
Madam Chair, members of the public, members of the board, the acceptance of public comment is now closed.
Thank you.
Glenn Spiritus, Peter Haruta,
Glenn Spiritus, 5540 North Ocean Drive, Riviera Beach. I would like to just remind all the residents of Singer Island, Riviera Beach, please come out and vote for District 4 Council on Tuesday, March 9th. If you have an absentee ballot or you're voting by mail, please make sure you do this. This is your opportunity to be heard. Please vote on March 9th, Tuesday, this Tuesday. Thank you.
Peter Haruta,
My apologies, I didn't know I couldn't sit there. Peter Ruda, 2305 Lake Shore. I want to just say, first of all, thank you, council, all the officers, the mayor. Recently, we had a meeting on the East 24th Street seawall of the neighborhoods. There was an issue, and I haven't heard any follow-up or backup on that. I don't know if there's been any further discussion on it. It was in reference to erecting a wall there or not. There was also issues that, quite a few issues that were brought up by the neighborhood people. The meeting was quite well attended, and a lot of issues came up. One was with the actual storm drainage, vagrants, big about the vagrants and people from the boats, dumping, illegal dumping. The city members of the building officials have been really helpful, and when they attended the meeting, answered all their questions. But again, they said something was earmarked, but not for a couple years, to my knowledge. I think there needs to be something a little sooner than that. I'm not sure if it could be looked into or how to address that or move forward with it. But I just want to bring it back up. Should I go? I have other cards that I put in. Should I keep going with the other issues that I have, or
Sure, you have 3 minutes.
to keep going? All right. The other issue I have is 2300 Lake Shore. There's a problem property. We've had quite a few code issues there. Again, the building department's come out. They've been very good in addressing those. They've posted violations. They're not being complied with. We've addressed the officers in reference to trying to get a little help. We were met with some resistance with the police department. I think it needs to be noted that the gentleman that owns a property is not very pleasant. So we're trying to direct everything through the building department and the police to get help. So it's become more of a problem, and I just want to see if we can get that addressed in some way, in some manner. And the other issue, Ms. Botel, is about the beach access over in by the Amoret and the Tierra. Don't know when that's going to be open, but truly, is there any dates proposed that you know of to be opened on that beach access?
We'll answer all the questions that come up in public comment at the end of public comment, and I'll see you, if you stay for the end of the meeting, we'll speak afterwards. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madeline Irving, Lloyd Brown, Doretta Polk.
Good evening, everyone. I am here to try to understand. We passed an ordinance last election regarding hands-off board members regarding city employees. What bothered me is I saw that on our city's website for Facebook, there was an interview done by Councilman Lawson with Richard Riles. What's so disheartening about this is Richard Riles has made it his personal agenda to attack our city manager, to attack our council lady, Dr. Botel. He's made it his personal business to post negative innuendos about Mrs. Botel's legislative aide, calling him the help. What's despairingly about that is here, he was listed as Black history. That's not the history that I want to see on my city's webpage as someone being honored. I was really offended by it, and Mr. Lawson chose to tell me that I should have not I should have looked at the other 6 people, but Mr. Riles was in an active lawsuit against our city. He has sued the city on a personal for his own good. And how was this person given the opportunity to be featured on our city's website? Mr. Lawson has a Facebook page. He could have used it for his own benefit, not for our city. To me, he overstepped his bounds. And I just want to put that on record, because to me as a resident, I don't think that someone should be featured on our city's social media who sued the city, who represented someone who couldn't run a race, who wanted our incumbent to bow out. That is not in good taste or good spirit of government. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lloyd Brown, Doretta Polk, Cindy Mark.
How you doing? My name is Lloyd Brown. Hi, everybody. You know, I'm not really a Facebook guy, so I don't really care what you put on Facebook, because I erase everybody I see that comes up. Because, I mean, I want you to hear my opinion, but I don't want to hear yours. And I'm being honest. But anyway, I left over here. When I came over here, I saw the lights on over at the baseball field, and there's nobody there. I went by the park down the street where I live. There's only one light, and there's a group of people down there trying to play basketball. Okay, I know this recreational thing. When I was coming up, we had things going on. When I go up to North Palm Beach or anywhere near Howard Watkins on a Saturday morning, you see all them young girls out there playing softball, and they have something going on all the time. So whoever over the park and recreation, apparently you're not doing a good job. And if you deal with the kids first, then you don't have to worry about them when they grow up. But I don't see anything in our neighborhood that deals with the kids except things that maybe somebody who work over here might know about it. But the kids I know who parents got kids sitting under their porch smoking marijuana and whatever, they still have kids. They don't know nothing about none of this, and none of the information get out to them. And you know what? I put grass in half of my yard because y'all doing a half-ass job. So I put half grass. And the code enforcement, let me tell you something. My neighbor down the street, you complaining about her garbage can not being put back up there, but those boats still got trash over there. I see you move the stuff. I'm not even, you know what? The reason I put grass is because I might want to run for mayor, but I don't want no pay. The money that you could pay me, you take and put it in them parks each weekend in an individual park. I mean, see, I see a lot of things when I ride around. I see a church that has maybe 3,000 members, right? And they probably got about 12 or 13 people here. And this black neighborhood church that does lawn maintenance, but you know who's doing the lawn maintenance? Some Spanish guy. So the money's not going back into the community, it's going out of the community. But then these people stand up and talk about Black Lives Matter. How in the heck? And then this thing about fellowship. How is it fellowship when you won't hire an individual that goes to your church, put in your whatever they call those things, you know, you put the money in? Okay, you got a person that put in, but then here it is, he can't even get a job, like a contractor who does maintenance or whatever. He can't, you know, the air conditioning guys that go to some of these churches, I mean, you want to get to heaven, go in your closet and pray. But you want something right now. You want the city. And I don't really care if the city grows because if the city grows and the citizens don't have a good life here, that don't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I mean, you talking about building here and building there, and you got all these people over here suffering right now, especially these landlords. You need to have somebody, the code enforcement need to go there to these landlords, because I done seen some houses. I done walked in and seen some houses.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Doretta Polk, Cindy March, Thomas Masters.
You did. Well, good evening. My name is Doretta Polk, and I'm a resident of Riviera Beach. I just want to say, Mr. Spirits, I really don't know really anything about you. I know that you are running, but even when we had COVID, you never came out and service the people of our community.
Talking to the mic, Ms. Pope.
You never came out to service the people of our community, as passing out food, masks, or anything.
Ms. Pope.
So,
Ms. Doretta,
no, I don't.
Ms. Pope,
I
Ms.
don't.
Pope, could you
what-
address
Okay.
the council?
No, I will not shut up, and you stop that. You don't get me, no.
Ms. Please, can we have Ms. Pope address the council?
Okay.
Please.
Can I have a couple of seconds back on my time, please?
You can adjust your time a little, thanks.
Please.
Ms. Pope, just look this way.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Definitely no problem. What we know about Judy Botel, that she has delivered in 2018, she voted to rehire the city manager, Mr. Jonathan Evans, voted to get rid of that $1,000 meeting bonus for the council, offered to pay tuition for the students completing their GED through the Riviera Beach Youth Empowerment Program, voted $10 million for badly needed improvements of the water treatment plant, voted to buy the land and new water treatment plant, brought Palm Beach State College to Riviera Beach for the first time. She started a workforce development task force to bring private companies together with educators to train high school students and young adults for their careers. She's done many other things. Now, I really implore all the citizens to get out and vote this March 9th. And also vote for the amendments. We want to vote yes on each of these 2 amendments. We do not have money, at least Mrs. Park don't have any money to pay over 50, whatever it is, % or whatever it is, for in case there's something happens in front of my house. I don't have that kind of money, and I'm sure there's other residents that do not have this kind of money. Now, I don't know if there's some type of plot going on here or what concerning trying to get Mrs. Botel out. Mrs. Botel has done a marvelous job and get Mrs. Spears in here because they'll probably be 3-2, and they probably have their own agenda to get rid of Mr. Evans. We will not have that. We worked too hard to get this young man back into our city. He's done a marvelous job. And also, you all need to go to newsday.com and look at the statements they said concerning Mrs. Spears. Thank you so much. Newsday.com. Thank you.
Cindy March, Thomas Masters, William Wiley.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Council. I'm Cindy March. You know, we can agree and disagree.
Could you please address the council?
I've been happen. Excuse me?
Could you please address the council, not the audience?
This is the way I'm just looking. I'm not addressing. I'm just looking. This is my focus, okay? I'm not out to get anyone, okay? So stop interrupting me when I'm speaking, please. Let me go ahead on with my conversation. As I was rudely interrupted, I am campaigning for Dr. Spears. And anybody can campaign for who they want to. This is an election. We can agree and disagree. It is utterly ridiculous with the flyer that was put out saying that we're ignorant people. He's with awful people. Let me tell you something. I have fought all my life to get an early education. Graduated 3 years out of high school. Went off to college for electronics. Wasn't focused. Made some bad choices in life. So I've been through the valley. I had to fight to get my diploma to read 1980 and not 1981 because of the color of my skin, because somebody tried to tell me you're not ready for society, but my GPA was over the top. So if you call that ignorant, I keep me 2 and 3 jobs. I don't have a silver spoon stuck in my mouth, okay? So I'm not ignorant. None of us are ignorant. We just make bad choices, or we can agree and disagree. So if you're voting for Botel or you're voting for Dr. Spears, that's your choice. But don't label me. Don't label me because I know I am somebody. We all are somebody. Okay? Let's run a clean campaign. Start talking about what Botel did. Let me tell you what Botel said she did. Okay? I did just what I was going to do. Bring Evans back. But you also ran on that platform. Bring Evans back and fire Lady Goldwhite, the building inspector, because she had no license, which was very untrue, which probably going to cost the city a whole lot of money because of your ignorancy. Your ignorancy. Enough is enough, okay? This city is so divided. And you know why it's divided? Because I'm going to use your pronouns. They, them, and those. They use us to go against one another. We better wake up. Because if not, history will repeat itself. And if nobody ain't taught y'all, that Trump, he should have taught you. When Democrats come out, Democrats coming out. And I'm going to continue to knock on the door for whoever I feel like the right candidate. Not because of personal vendettas. No, we didn't know you either. But you ran and you won. Just because we don't know this man doesn't mean that he has a great agenda to make this city better. Let's stop with all of the foolishness, knocking down each other's signs. Let's do what's right for one another. I have said to this podium plenty of times and had to come back and apologize. Even to Reverend Masters, I had to apologize. Let's stop the foolishness.
Thank you.
Thomas Masters, William Wiley, Amon Israel.
Thank you. Bishop Thomas Masters, pastor of the New Macedonia Baptist Church, 748 West 9th Street, Riviera Beach. I would like to thank the city and the CRA for a successful job fair. We had over 250 job seekers, probably about 20 employers or plus, and it was wonderful. I want to thank Councilman Lawson for being a presenter. I want to thank Chairperson Dr. Botel and Councilperson Trodrick McCoy for coming by, sharing with the job seekers as well as the employers. I do have a special announcement to make. Babcock is looking for a bilingual person to work inside sales. The young lady that's there now told me yesterday that she's going to bring home $7,000 plus in 1 month. They need a bilingual person now. Hilton needs some people in the housekeeping department now. These people who have called me recently in the last 24 hours. Cheney Brothers called yesterday. They need people now to drive that pallet, the pallet jack thing that puts the pallets on the truck. They are hiring ex-offenders as well. They need to hire people now. Solid Waste need people now. And they also hire ex-offenders. Now, Monday, I guess that's the 8th, at I guess about 6 p.m., I'd like to meet with any of the job seekers, whether it's Babcock, Hilton, Cheney Brothers, Solid Waste. Please come by and see me first before I can do the referral, and we can make sure that you're properly dressed, that you have a resume, that you know what to expect when you go. So Monday, if you would meet me at the New Macedonia Baptist Church at March the 8th at 5 p.m., then we'll have a little pre-orientation. Then I will personally send you, whether it's Babcock, Hilton, Cheney Brothers, or Solid Waste. I also like to announce that we are planning a job fair for ex-offenders that we now call returning citizens. It's important to have their own job fairs, not too fair to have a job fair and ex-offenders are thrown in with people that do not have any background records at all, because you know who's going to get the jobs. So we're going to have one. I want to thank Dr. Patel for meeting with the Workforce Alliance for the reentry program as well, because she's involved with that. However, we're going to have one on March the 31st, a couple of days before Easter, which you call Resurrection, for ex-offenders only. You must have a record to get into the room. If you don't have a record, you can't come in. So March the 31st at New Macedonia, and I'll be working with, I think, Councilperson Lanier for this one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
William Wiley, Amon Israel, Betsy Brown.
Good evening, Board.
State your name, and please.
Sorry, my name is William Wiley. I'm born and raised here in Riviera Beach. School teacher at Roosevelt Middle School and also was at Palm Beach Lakes, ex-military, and I also work for the Palm Beach County Courthouse. I want to start off by saying, let's put Riviera Beach first. That's the first thing. Let's put Riviera Beach first. Our city is important. It's important to us and our kids, and we want to make sure we stay the path with what we're doing and keep everything in a professional manner. Let's keep the progress. I remember a couple of years ago we had some issues going on with the city and things were not being seen in a positive light. Mrs. Botel, Ms. Kashama Miller-Anderson, Ms. Lanier, right? They vowed to come in and go ahead and get the city back on track so we can get back to progress. Don't forget Mrs. Botel was part of that, and she brought in the progress that we needed, and she has done a great job. Remember, no one said anything about the previous administration. No one said anything about the previous administration that never came across the track to be able to help anybody at all. And then the one lady who comes to help out the city and do things with the city, not only Singer Island and also the mainland, right now all of a sudden we have an agenda to want to get rid of her for some reason. To me, that doesn't make any sense. All right, so I'm here teaching, I'm here with our kids, I'm here with our students, I'm here with our people, I'm out here in these streets helping people out all the time. Same thing my mother did. I'm trying to walk in her footsteps. But I just can't explain why we do this to Mrs. Botel through all the great things she has done. All right, so now let's talk about leadership in this city first thing. Leadership is pulling people together, it's not division. Leadership is coming up with solutions. It's not pointing fingers to people when things go wrong. Leadership is working as a team to better our city. The first thing we don't do, everybody, is that when situations go bad and we don't like them, to jump on Facebook and then be able to accuse somebody of something without doing your due diligence. The first thing you should have done about the bridge situation is call up and get the situation taken care of, find out what really happened, and then come back and report that. I think it was very, very unprofessional by our council members and members of our council to get on Facebook and inflame the city, because that's not leadership. That's not leadership. And that's not supposed to be done in our city. If me as a teacher, myself as a teacher, if I did that with the kids class, it'd be a problem. You want me out of my job, all right? But my job is to take these kids, put them together, and make them want to learn and make them achieve and achieve their goals, right? This is not what's being done now. We have people undermining our city, all right? So now, let's keep this clear. I will always be for the best interest of the city. Mrs. Botel, Mrs. Lanier, and Ms. Kashama Miller-Anderson has done some really good things for our city. We have no reason to get them out of here. We have no reason to bring anybody else in, because no one else is going to come in and help us the way they have and got us through the worst part of our city. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Amon Israel, Bessie Brown, Dolores Williams.
Good evening, Amon Yisrael, Riviera Beach, Florida. Well, I can't say anything better than Richard Riley just said about Miss Julia Botel. But there are a few questions, and I do want to thank those that are sitting on the council this evening for the things that they are doing. I do have a few questions, though. When I calculate the numbers from hearing you all talk in previous meetings, I come up with $300,000 to $400,000 savings by keeping Jonathan as the city manager. And is it true that he's not receiving a dime since August for the services that he has rendered so far? So I really would love to have the numbers of the savings. And is it true that he has not received a dime for his services that he has rendered so far? Also, the food, the food co-op farm. I'm totally in support of anybody that comes to the city, and she has done a wonderful job in bringing different organizations to help provide food for our community, organic food. With the high blood pressure, the diabetes, the cholesterol that is rampant in Riviera Beach, we need to be in a position to provide food for our community. That's a wonderful thing. The next thing I want to ask is, if you're going to talk about Ms. Botel, just tell the truth. Now, one of the things I notice about her, she is accessible. If you want to ask her some questions, ask her some questions. She can give you answers to decisions that she made. Kashamba is accessible, and Ms. Lanier is accessible. So, we need to move the city forward. We need to keep that in mind. Now, I got some information in my mail today, and I got several calls about people or about someone that's being supported against Ms. Botel. I don't know if that's true, but we need to know who we're supporting. We really do. We do know what Ms. Botel brings to the table. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you on the chair, Ms. Botel, in a couple of more days.
Thank you.
Bessie Brown, Dolores Williams, Fane Lozman.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I am here tonight about the amendments, and I would really appreciate if everybody in this city that's hearing my voice would vote no, because it states the charter currently provides that 50% of the cost of certain street and drainage improvements shall be paid by the benefited property owner, but that's the reason they want to get rid of it, is because they have a $4 million bid in to fix the infrastructure and bridges over there on Sing Island, and they don't want them to be paying anything. And then it says, and the council may determine the assessments for curbs, gutters, valley gutters, and sidewalks. The council doesn't have that. The council already does that, and they don't need to be. It doesn't need to be going into the charter, and then they're not assessing anything. They are paying for that already. Now they're going to take one thing off of payment and put the rest of the stuff to be paid again. This is not proper and correct. Also, a council shall have the authority to abolish any city departments or office other than the police and fire departments. Why would we give the council the authority to abolish any department in the city that's been here forever other than the police and fire? That is not necessary to be put in the charter. So, therefore, I would appreciate if everyone in the city to vote no. Also, they want to ask where's Mr. Spirit has been on for 20 years. Where's Miss Botel been for 20 years? Because Dawn Potter was over there, and she was over there, over on Sing Island too. So basically, that goes hand in hand. And also, say Mr. Spiritus is a good, nice man, and he's a smart man. And Miss Botel has used him for some of her stuff that she wanted done in the city. So basically, how can he be so good and the people that are supporting him so bad? Because I was a Botel supporter 3 years ago, and I want to know how did I become so sordid and terrible right now? And I've been retired for 16 years, and I was not forced to retire.
Dolores Williams, Thane Losman, J.B. Dixon.
Good evening to the chairman, the mayor, and all the people here. I would just like to say I think that everybody should vote no on the amendments. And I was very offended by what Ms. Botel, your manager, said the last time we had a meeting. And I looked at the word that she described. Me, that helped Mr. Glenn. I don't really know Mr. Glenn that well. I've learned you there for the 3 years you've been here. But what she described me, and the ones that work to say we are involved in notable action and motive, arising moral distaste and contempt and dirty or squealing. Look at that word she put in here. That's what she said. The one, and your campaign manager said the last one to hear that this man was a good man. She don't know nothing bad about him. All he know, but the only thing he want to know why he got those people helping him. I would help you if you had asked me. I never got up here to try to make nobody shame or hurt their feelings or try to make them look bad. It's this the word. Everybody that want to look it up. SORDID. Look at them and see how it describes the people that because we're going to help this man. So all the ones that help you, Ms. Botel, respect you. I don't think they are SORDID. They need to look up that and stop saying the story paints a sort of their picture of bribery and scams similar to dirty, shameful, mucky, grimy, foul. I'm not like that. And I want them, everybody can say, he don't know him, Ms. Botel, we didn't know you till 3 years ago. You had to learn for your 3 years being up there. Everybody got a chance to. You learn. Every one of you learned your position. You, Mr. Evan, you promised me you're going to do 2 things you say you're going to do on the west side. You haven't told me yet. Miss Lanier's supposed to meet with me. Soon be 3 years. Haven't met with her yet. I just want to let y'all know. Please do not let people just distort other people because you want the other person to win. Whatever God say and it should be, that's what it's going to be. If you want to look at, say, people supporting him, now I hope some people don't get mad. If you say people that sought him,
How many people that you have mainly come up and speak for you have started fights and want to fight in this here council meeting? Not the first one for him. Done start a fight. You couldn't even control it with your gavel. You had to shut the meeting down. We are not sorted.
Thank you.
Thane Lozman, J.B. Dixon.
Thane Lozman, Taylor Realty Group, and myself filed a legal action against Botel, Jeremy Summers, and Botel's administrative assistant. 10 o'clock on this coming Friday, Judge Donald Hafley is going to hear our motion. What's been happening is Botel has been coming out on the weekends and putting signs in front of my property. I have 2,000 feet along North Ocean Drive. She used to put them out during the week, but DOT would pick them up, and now she admits to get around state law, she puts them up on the weekend when DOT doesn't work. It's against the law to put signs up anywhere on state roads 24 hours a day, but she and her hat lady campaign manager put them out, and then they get police chief, they get Jeremy Summers to come threaten to arrest Dan Taylor, who cleans up the highway as part of the Taylor Realty Group Adopt the Highway. He has Jeremy Summers comes out and says he's going to take us to jail so we can get COVID and spend time in the weekend. It's gross. Botel has coordinated that. We'll see what the judge says. Jeremy Summers is also named as a defendant in that action. Mr. Sermons today says, my power, no more electric. I had temporary power where my floating home is. He denied my power. Take a hike. You are so stupid, Mr. Sermons. I've talked to the top land use lawyers in the state of Florida. You can't take away somebody's electric to their property. I want to sit on my beach and use my computer. I want to have lights. I want to have cameras. Twice in the last 5 days, some of the Botel bullies have come to my floating home and cut all the ropes. And my floating home's been drifting around in the bay with all my docks. A few years ago, they actually sunk my floating home, the Botel bullies down on Pine Point Road. So they don't want me to have electric. What you have done, you don't have a clue what you've done. You've taken away all use of this property. The taxpayers can be lit up for tens of millions of dollars in a federal action. You've taken away everything, including the utilities. I own 50 acres out there. Millions of dollars have been spent on the property. The Botel is so out of control, trying to take everything away, that she's going to saddle the West Side for decades to come with a judgment that could be $100 million. But, you know, Mr. Spiritus may have the personality of a rock, but he's an honest guy. And he knows what he's talking about. Botel is just a power-hungry egomaniac who's already been censured by Governor DeSantis. Any Republican should never vote for a Democrat like Botel because she thinks the world revolves around her, and it doesn't. She's used her office to get free office space for an illegal PAC. She's used her office for a sham charity. She stole $120,000 or coordinated $190,000 of taxpayers' money being given to Mr. Evans, who wouldn't come back. She stole the money from the beach polo lady. She's done all kinds of stuff. She's an embarrassment to this city, but you're going to do what you're going to do, and one day she'll be doing the perp walk into federal prison.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Wait and see.
Your time is up.
J.B. Dixon.
J.B. Dixon, 3000 North Ocean Drive, Singer Island and Riviera Beach. It is always a pleasure to follow Mr. Lozman and address his rants. Mr. Lozman actually filed a lawsuit to keep someone from posting campaign signs. Can you believe it? And and he asked for an emergency because he was in dire threat of getting COVID-19. Clearly, this was filed yesterday. The judge did not see that it needed to be heard today, or perhaps tomorrow, if it's not going to be until Friday, because no one was ever served with papers. It was supposed to be such an emergency that the judge should just rule on it without even telling the parties what they had supposedly done. Mr. Lozman's floating home, as he calls it, or storage shed, or whatever it is, was not cut, unless it was cut by him, because for days before it got loose, his badly constructed dock segments were floating out, including concrete in the lagoon, where if you're a boater, you could kill yourself if you ran into one of those. I never ran any political action committee. The committee he's referring to was a political committee. There is a difference. You should look that up, Thane. And it was registered, not illegal. It was registered here with the city clerk, which is where political committees should be registered. I also never ran it out of Dr. Botel's office. I live in a building with business services. I have secretaries, computers, faxes, high-quality copy machines, postage meters. Why in God's name would I get into a car and drive over here to a councilwoman's office? I've probably been in that office maybe 3 or 4 times, one time. I only remember one time. There are sign-in sheets to show I never went over there. This, quote, sham charity is called Friends of Riviera Beach Schools, and you should ask some of the principals of the schools how sham we are, taking their kids to and paying for their kids to go to science museums, to have special seminars on electricity and physics. There's nothing sham about that. There's nothing sham about Julie Botel. There's a whole lot of sham going on elsewhere. Thank you, and vote for Julie Botel on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, that concludes public comment.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, do you have any answers to some of the questions that were raised?
Yes, Madam Chair. With regards to the meeting that occurred related to the project that's occurring on 24th Street, staff has convened a meeting, or will be convening a meeting on Monday, and then following up with the residents. They do have all the contact information. They're looking at an amicable solution to the issues that were expressed by persons that did attend the meeting, which was a well-attended meeting. From all accounts, there was roughly about 35 to 40 people. So staff will be following up, attempting to address those issues and those concerns. With regards to the property that is referenced at 330 East 25th Street, staff did visit the site and there was no visual violations, but staff is going to take it a step further to see if they can access the interior of the structure, because they believe that there could be some violations with regards to BTR and the activities that are actually occurring in there, that it is supposed to be for a single family residence and it may be having multiple occupants. So that is an item that staff is certainly going to look into and then report back accordingly. With respect to the program that Councilman Lawson provided, it was a request of Councilperson Lawson to interview persons for Black History Month. I can assure you that there was no intention to offend or to make any person feel ill with regards to who the participants were. It was to look at folks that have been instrumental with regards to Black history and provide perspectives as we look to expand the conversation associated with that. But we are going to have a more robust discussion with the board to look at the use of our PEG channel and our public access channel, as well as our marketing team, and how do we better utilize them and ensure that there's consistency and uniformity in the way in which our PEG channel and our marketing team is utilized. With respect to the question associated with the speaker concerning my activities at the CRA, the assumption was correct. Since the temporary appointment and then the permanent appointment, there has not been any compensation with regards to the services that have been provided to the CRA, nor have I looked to bring it forward on the agenda for discussion. But that is correct. The projected monies that we did have in the budget for the CRA director was anywhere from $150,000 to $190,000 per year. If it was assumed that the position would be filled at, let's say, $150,000 per year, and you add in the ancillary benefits, it's roughly about $206,000 for that particular position. So with regards to me serving in that capacity, roughly since the appointment that occurred in October, the savings is roughly about $17,000 per month. There also is some other cost-saving activities that we would like to bring before the board for consideration as part of your budget conversations that we think we can certainly save, as well as gain some additional efficiencies with some tweaks and modifications to the services that are providing, and commingling some operational activities with the city. As it relates to the charter amendments, we have done a very extensive job with regards to communicating with persons about the charter amendments, and it was mentioned about the project on Singer Island. The reason that $2 million was allocated in the budget is that's the amount of money that we anticipate to spend this fiscal year. There are multiple projects that transcend fiscal years. So if it's a $4 million project and we're only going to spend $2 million, we only put $2 million in the budget. The other $2 million will be programmed in next year's budget. But one of the things that I think is very important to note, that the charter amendments that are being proposed, the language is in the charter that requires every roadway project, not just specific areas in our community. So whether it's the roadway project on the island or it's a roadway project on the mainland, it requires, it is very explicit, it says shall, it requires that 50% of the cost associated with the project needs to be paid by the persons that are deriving a benefit associated with the capital investment. And that is for the roadway, the drainage, and any ancillary improvements associated with that. When we had our community meeting, I basically told the residents that if you go out to your front yard and you walk, every foot you walk, it's going to cost you roughly anywhere between $50 to $100 if they rebuild that roadway that your community, in your neighborhood. Also, the other thing about it is that most lots in Riviera Beach are roughly about, frontage on a roadway is about 68 to 75 feet. Some have as much as 100. If the provision is followed that's in the charter, 50 feet would cost you $1,500 and 100 feet would cost you $5,000. You can conceivably be paying more for the roadway construction in front of your home than your neighbor pays because of the amount of frontage. If you have areas in our community that you're on a cul-de-sac, and some cul-de-sacs have limited frontage on a roadway, when I did the math, there are some that are roughly about 30 feet of frontage, but then when it makes the turn, you can get upward of over 100 feet of frontage. So I want to make it clear to the residents that this is a provision that's in the charter. This is a provision that city staff brought to the board that was voted on 4-1 to bring forward for consideration. The premise behind that is we did not want to be in violation of our charter. And when this provision was in the charter, which was enacted in state law in 1923, most municipalities didn't have the financial resources to construct roadways and infrastructure the way they do now. So Thomas Jefferson says, as society changes, so should government. We have an element in the charter that says that 50% is to be borne by the property owners that are benefiting from the infrastructure. So the intent behind this and asking the voters to consider it is we haven't utilized this since the 1980s, and we don't want to have something in the charter that we're not following, because that is the contract that the city has with the residents of the community. And so it's important to make sure that we adhere to all provisions that are in the charter, not ones that we like and ones we don't like. And so the intent behind bringing that forward is that it is an archaic method. We do not utilize it. We haven't utilized it since the 80s. And it would, in essence, be requiring you to pay for the roadway infrastructure twice. You pay property tax, and then you'll end up paying an assessment for roadway improvements in front of your home. So I think that that's very important that people understand the facts associated with the argument, because it's a lot more than what people are making it out to be. The other issue, as it relates to making police and fire charter departments, we have all heard multiple times the false narrative with regards to contract out this service, contract out that service, contract out this. This provision that is being presented will require the voters to make a decision. If the police and fire departments become charter departments, only the voters would have the authority to make the decision in order to contract out the services for police and fire. Right now, today, this board, and this board will not, can make a decision by the three persons that are here to contract out, modify, abolish, or tweak any department in the city of Riviera Beach. This is giving the authority back to the voters and protecting your core municipal function as it relates to police and fire. It provides protection for those departments. As long as you have those departments, conceivably, one can argue, you will always have a city. In addition to, it stops the fear-mongering that occurs during elections where police and fire is utilized as a mechanism to scare persons on philosophical perspectives. I've had to talk to too many officers and assure them that there was no way that we were going to the sheriff department because of false narratives that people were putting out. So this charter provision, if the voters approve, will forever put the police and fire department in the charter, and only you, the voters, can ever take it away. So I've tried to make it as clear as day with regards to both charter provisions, that there's no ulterior motive, there is no sinister plan or plot. It is merely to provide clarity of message of what the intent behind it is. And I can say that I think I can speak for most persons in this room. You don't want to spend more for government. And so we have the means to be able to fund our projects. We have done it since the 1980s utilizing other funding mechanisms. And the provision that talks about assessments is an old provision that is currently not utilized. But we don't want to be the administration that doesn't follow the charter. So we wanted to make the change and bring that for consideration from the voters. And so that is the nuts and bolts regarding those two charter provisions. If anyone has any other questions with regards to those charter provisions, I will make myself available in your front yard, your backyard, your church, your synagogue, your pool party, your birthday party, your bar mitzvah, wherever is necessary to make sure that accurate information is communicated to the residents of this community, because we have a moral and ethical obligation to provide the accurate information so you can make an informed decision. You may not agree, but misinformation is dangerous. The last thing, it was mentioned with regards to what things the city is doing on the west side of the community. In June, you will have a new state-of-the-art library facility that will be online, that will be located at 2129 North Congress. In that particular facility, you'll have a YEP center that is twice the size of the existing facility, that will actually have a STEM lab, and that we're partnering up with FAU to have oceanic elements in there. So conceivably, we will be able to broadcast live from that facility science, experiments, and activities that our kids are doing, and have a direct relationship with FAU. The other side of it is, and this is really exciting about this particular facility, we will have a cafe in there that will be staffed by young people from YEP. So you'll be able to stop there for coffee or get a Danish, and those kids will be learning skills to be restaurateurs, bookkeeping, all that in your new public library. On March 18th, the intent to negotiate for Fire Station 88 will be concluded, and then we will start the procurement, well, not the procurement process, but the process of vetting the teams. So conceivably, we would look to move quickly on the reconstruction of a new Fire Station 88 on the corner of Blue Heron and Congress. And so you'll have the most expensive fire station that the city of Riviera Beach ever built right there on that corner, roughly about a $12 million projected cost. You heard today that we're going to have an urban farm in our community that's going to produce anywhere between 8 to 20,000 pounds of produce that we'll be able to give to our community. And you also heard that we will, for the first time, under the leadership of this board, moving forward with our ambassador program that was in the CRA, is now going to be expanded to our entire community. So you're going to see people picking up trash, sweeping sidewalks, pressure washing buildings, helping their neighbors, installing safety equipment. So there's a lot of things that we're doing on the west side of our community, and I could assure you that people should be proud of the activities and the progress and the things that we have going on. The board did authorize $1.5 million at the last council meeting to move forward with the temporary construction for Fire Station 87. So we will be building a temporary Fire Station 87 across the street, and we will be able to move forward with the demolition of the old library as well as Fire Station 87. Then we're also on the CRA side going to be able to move forward probably in the next 60 days, the demolition of the old bank building on the corner of Blue Heron and Broadway, and then looking to enter into opportunities for redevelopment of that particular site. Also coming back to the CRA board is we are in the final stages of acquiring the parcel referred to as Miami Subs. We're looking at some improvements that we can do to that facility, and that may be an opportunity for another business incubator to create for another restaurateur here in our community. So there's a lot of things that are going on. We as an agency don't feel the need to spike the football or to celebrate the victories, but everyone is working very hard to move the city forward and to accomplish what we said we were going to accomplish in Riviera Beach 2030. And I could assure you that if anybody has any questions, if you ever have any concerns, before you go on social media or Twitter or what have you, just pick up the phone and call. We make ourselves as accessible as possible, and we want to have conversations to be able to provide some clarity. And then with respect to youth sports, we are going to be having a conversation with the board at your next meeting to discuss what sports do we look or activities we look to bring online. And I can tell you, I've been conservative to not bring back some of the sports and activities because we have a vulnerable population. And I don't want little Johnny to go out there and get sick, but little Johnny's immune system is a heck of a lot stronger than his grandma or his mom. And I don't want to have a virus that is more active than it was when we shut things down adversely impact anybody in our community if I can help it. And so we have been very careful and very cautious with regards to our sporting activities and what we roll out. But we know that kids want to recreate, but we want to do so in a responsible, respectful manner that doesn't jeopardize the health and welfare and well-being of any person in our community. So hence why we've taken the approach that we've taken, but we are going to be having the conversation with the board on a policy level to get their perspective and their appetite about some programs rolling out over the next couple of months. And so, Madam Chair, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much. I want to be clear, and you did a great explanation of the amendments, but I want to be clear so that people really understand. Is it true that a yes vote with regard to the roads means that we will abolish that from the charter? It means that it will protect people from paying that. Is that what a yes vote means?
That is correct, Madam
Thank you.
Chair.
And a yes vote on the police issue means that we will protect police and fire, means that we will protect our police and fire from being outsourced. So that's what a yes vote means.
That is correct,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other comments, Mr. City Manager?
No, Madam Chair.
We have discussion by City Attorney.
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. City Council committee reports? Anything? I've had a number of committees since our last meeting, since I last reported out, but I won't go into too much detail. I attended the Economic Development Committee of the Palm Beach North Chamber. I also attended the Issues Forum, the Intergovernmental Issues Forum, where we talked about regional transportation issues, housing, sea level rise, and hurricane preparation. I attended the Education Committee of the Palm Beach North Chamber. It was very informative, talked about, well, let me get into it. The one that I really want to dwell on a little bit, I attended the Sustainability Committee. I'm a member of the Palm Beach North Chamber Sustainability Committee, and we had a presentation from Lake Park about the work they are doing to improve their wastewater treatment, to build swales, so sorry, to be aware of the fact that the sea level is rising, and in all of their new projects, they're taking into consideration the rise of the sea level. And I really encourage you, Mr. Evans, to please reach out to Little Lake Park. We've taken guidance from them in the past, quite recently, and I think it would behoove us to take guidance from them in this issue, because they've done a lot of work on the study of sea level rise, particularly when it comes to the new construction that we have coming up. And I think that there's a gentleman who did that work for them, and he reached out to you, and I would encourage you to communicate with him. That's the extent of my committee reports. Any statements by the mayor and city council, starting with the mayor?
No comment, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Miller-Anderson?
Yes, Madam Chair. I was going to mention about the charter amendments, but I think Ms. Evans did a very explicit, had a very explicit discussion on it. And again, you know, we all know that voting is coming up, and we typically start to see a lot of things going on, a lot of people saying a lot of things, but please pay attention to what has been taking place. We have been making a lot of strides, and it's important that people not just vote based on what someone is saying. You want to make sure that you think about where we were 2-3 years ago and how we have made some progress since then. So please, please do your research. Don't just go based off of what someone is telling you. A lot of rumors that are being put out there, just a whole lot of things that are just total lies, and I said that before. And it is continuing. So, you know, I know our residents are very smart, you're very savvy. Please don't fall for some of this foolishness that you're hearing, because it really is crazy. I do believe you're smart enough to know what is truth versus what is not truth. And again, you got to come out and vote. I know there's only a few things on the ballot, but it's important that you come out and vote on March 9th. I just had a question, Mr. Evans, regarding your spending authority, the $25,000. I know the mayor mentioned earlier about the water tank drawing falling under your authority. Now, with your spending authority, although you have that limit, being that that particular project is something that is very impactful on the community, how do we monitor that? Like, can we all just come to you and ask you to do a project that could run thousands and thousands of dollars, instead of us running it through our own budget?
Conceivably, and I think it shouldn't be that way. And the mayor, when we came in October, that was the intent to get the appetite of the board with regards to the particular project. So as it relates to bringing it back before the board, certainly, that's something that, we'll make sure that those types of instances don't happen again. But that's not the intent, and that's not how we would want, projects or initiatives to come forward.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to, get clarity on that, because if that's the case, we're looking at a slippery slope where each one of us are going to have projects that we want to do, whereas we don't have the money in our individual council budgets, that we will now go to the manager and have him utilize his spending authority to push our own initiatives through. I don't think that is, like you said, that's not how we typically do it, and I hope that's not something we're going to continue, because that then it's almost like you're circumventing the whole process of involving the council in doing projects that are large scale. Obviously, if you're using your budget and it's the money within your budget and it's an initiative or project that you want to do, then you do that. But if it's something that is falling under the manager's authority, and we're going to bypass the council, maybe we need to look at lowering the manager's authority, because we can't circumvent the process. I do understand why the manager has a spending authority, but I don't believe it was designed for us to circumvent processes and go directly to the manager for items that are much larger than what we can afford to do in our own budget. So thank you for that clarity. And that's really it. I just wanted to just encourage people to come out to vote, and you all have a great week.
Thank you. Ms. Lanier?
I just wanted to say, piggybacking off Ms. Miller Anderson, Councilwoman Miller Anderson, that it is very imperative that you know the game that is on the table here. We are moving forward with this city. And, it becomes a situation where you say, why would people want to impede progress? Why would people want to say things that are not true? Why would they just keep saying things that are not true? Misrepresentations. And as I say, flat out lies. And what you have to understand is that 3 years ago, when this city was in turmoil and on TV every day about what was happening in this city, it appeared that people liked that. They like to be in turmoil. They like for it to be where it's always the city of Riviera Beach and those Negroes over there can't get it together. I'm telling you, this is what they were saying. So we have to be, now we're in a better position to move this city forward and give to the residents what they deserve. And as I say all the time, my father came here to Riviera Beach from Chicago, mind you, in 1964, bought a house here. I was born here, and people who live in this city deserve everything that we can do to work to give them. It is not about Councilwoman Lanier. It is not about the council people here. It is about the people who live in this city. That's who we work for. That's where the budget comes from. People's taxes. We're spending their money. So it behooves us to make sure that the information that people are receiving, how you treat people, how you deal with people, lying to people and making mistruths and misrepresentations means you are taking the taxpayers for granted. So we are in a position now to move this city forward, to get all of the things that we've seen. I've been here for 55 years. And you've seen that we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do, and nothing never happens. And people and consultants and developers say, we're not coming to the city of Riviera Beach. Because once we get started, the council changes, and people change their mind, and they fire people at will, and they just do whatever they want to do over there. So we have a situation where we are trying to bring development to this city, good development, honest development, where people make money, but not for personal gain. We bring people to this city to make sure that the residents are participants in the growth of this city. It is not for your personal pockets. So when I am very passionate about making sure that the city I was born and raised in, that the people who live here are the people who come first. And that people come here and they talk about, I want to do this, and it's not about you. It's about the people who live here. So whatever they say they want, that's what we do. They elected us to do what they say they want, not what you want. So when I talk about this, I get very up here because, I've lived in the city all my life. And I've seen it up, I've seen it down, I've seen it all types of ways. And I think that right now, we're on the right path to be able to bring to this city, we are the only majority African-American city on the eastern seaboard. We have a gym here. We have people that from the Singer Island to the west side that work together. That has never happened. So we have an opportunity here to move this city forward, and I mean quickly forward, and not have to wait for years and years and years and years. Now I'm old and I don't care what happens now. No, we want to move this city forward quickly and as soon as possible. And we can do that. With the help of the residents and people backing us, we can do that. So I implore you to vote on March the 9th. I implore you to stay involved. When I first got elected, I talked a lot about the involvement of the residents, how they came out, how they did petitions, how they orchestrated everything. I'm sitting here because of the citizens of this city orchestrated this whole deal. They said, this is what we want, and they made it happen. So I implore all the residents to keep this train moving, that we are doing better and better and better and better. And that is how you build a city, that is how you build neighborhoods, and that is how you build leadership and you build communities. So thank you so much for listening to my speech.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair,
Bravo.
before we close, can I say one thing?
We haven't finished.
Okay.
Well, go ahead. Do you have a statement?
Yeah, I just wanted to address, I did bring the art project to council first, so it's not like I went to Mr. Evans to get the funding for it. I came to council first. I just wanted to clarify that. And I want to say something else, because I hear a lot of stuff about the division of the city, people putting out misinformation. Let me say this. This is democracy. We can vote for whoever we want to vote for. I think both sides have been guilty with rhetoric going out, with bashing going out, and it is a sad day that we have to witness in Riviera Beach. Like council person, a woman in there says, I'm from the city. My family has a lot of stake in the city. And so, it's dear to me. But to see what's happening now, it's not one side. I think we should respect whoever somebody votes for, should respect. But what I'm saying is, if you vote for one person, they're going to slander you. If you vote for the other, they're going to slander you. Listen, it's your right. At the end of the day, we all make decisions as people decide to vote for Dr. Botel, council, Chairperson Botel on the council. It's people on the dais that decide to vote for Spiritus. At the end of the day, we still got to work together. But you're not going to make a choice for me. I'm going to make my own choice. And if you don't like that, then that's what it is. But whatever choice you make, I still should be able to work with you. And I think it's gotten so ugly that, people are just saying some reckless stuff, and we just need to sit back and say, respect a person's views and why they like a person other than another person. That's what it's all about. And so we need to look at ourselves as we're talking about, because both sides are putting out some wicked stuff. It's not one side, all right? And so take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a quick reminder that we have the Singer Island cleanup on Friday, March 5th. We'll be convening at the Ambassador Center, which is 1229 East Blue Heron at 9, and we'll be going until 5 o'clock. So please come out and help us clean up. If you're interested in helping out, you can email stbrown@rivierbeach.org. That's stbrown@rivierbeach.org. We hope to see you all there. I had a very productive meeting with not only FWC, but also the fishermen and women representation and representation from the divers. Excuse me. And we've got some really good suggestions about how to compromise. And I'll be meeting again with representatives from both those groups so that we can really make sure that everyone enjoys that beautiful piece of paradise that we call the Blue Heron Bridge and the waters underneath it. I want to let you know, Sugar Sands folks, we are listening. We're going to be taking a second look at where we put the managed mooring fields, and I'm happy to say that those of you who wrote to me and pleaded with me to make a change there, we definitely listened, and Mr. Evans is with us. I just want a quick announcement. We're very happy to announce that the Pay for Success grant that we applied for is going to be funded. This is a very, very big 2020 U.S. Department of Education Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education grant. It's a project with the School District of Palm Beach County in partnership with Hack Lab, and it will bring exciting things to our middle school with JFK, a Florida Ready to Work soft skills and foundational skills project, the high school, which will create a new engineering and design-focused high school career academy at Riviera Beach Prep, and also the tech school over at North Tech. So really excited about that project because it will bring more opportunities for young people to learn here in Riviera Beach. And if there's nothing else for this evening, this meeting is adjourned.